Have you ever felt like you are walking through a social minefield? A place where a single wrong word doesn't just trigger a misunderstanding, but launches an absolute declaration of war. You help someone, you offer your hand, only to realize that the person you are lifting up is actively pulling you down. If you feel that the world's patience is shortening while its aggression is skyrocketing, you are not hallucinating. The air is heavy. But here is the truth that few are willing to admit. We are not just dealing with bad people. We are dealing with a new psychological baseline. This video is not a rant about toxic behavior. It is a dissection of the social engineering that creates it. We are going to look under the hood of the modern psyche. The central thesis we will explore today is uncomfortable but necessary. Modern toxicity is not an anomaly. It is a survival mechanism. We live in a society that cultivates emotional illiteracy, where internal fragility is masked by external aggression, and where dysfunction is often rewarded as strength. By the end of this video, you won't just know how to spot them. You will understand the machinery behind their chaos and how to dismantle it. I want you to visualize a sculpture made of the thinnest, most delicate glass. It is beautiful, intricate, but terrifyingly fragile. Now, imagine that this glass sculpture demands to be treated with the authority of a king, but reacts to the world with the brutality of a tyrant. This is the paradox of the modern toxic personality. We are witnessing the rise of a dangerous psychological combination: thin skin and an inflated ego. Historically, people who were thin-skinned, unable to handle criticism or discomfort, tended to withdraw. Today, they attack. They have an ego that demands constant validation, yet a resilience so low that a simple difference of opinion feels like a life-threatening injury. When you encounter someone who explodes over nothing, understand this. They are not attacking you because they are strong. They are attacking you because their identity is made of glass. They are striking out to protect a self-image that cannot sustain itself. Let's look at a scenario you might recognize. Perhaps it was a colleague you mentored, or a friend you supported through a crisis. You offered them logic. They responded with raw, unprocessed emotion. You offered solutions. They responded with blame. There is a specific moment of realization, an epiphany, that occurs when you see the switch flip. You realize that the help you are offering is being rejected, but the attention you are giving is being devoured. I recall a situation where a mentor offered guidance to a struggling peer. As long as the peer was the victim, the dynamic was stable. But the moment the mentor suggested the peer take responsibility for their own outcome, the dynamic shifted instantly from gratitude to competition. The support was weaponized. Why? Because your light highlights their shadows. Your growth highlights their stagnation. The lesson here is brutal, but liberating. The betrayal is not personal, it is functional. Their aggression is the only language available to someone who has lost the capacity to articulate what they feel. They are not fighting against you. They are fighting to keep a delusional self-image alive. You are merely collateral damage in their internal civil war. To understand why this happens, we must look at the architecture of their mind. This behavior rests on three rotting pillars of modern psychology. The first is the collapse of resilience. We have created a culture that increasingly punishes pain and idolizes comfort. We have confused safety with the absence of disagreement. The result is a generation of adults who collapse in the face of minor frustrations. Because they cannot process the sensation of being wrong or being challenged, they must externalize that pain. They must make you the bad object so they can remain the good object. The second pillar is survival mode. Emotionally illiterate people view relationships through a binary lens: predator or prey. They have replaced connection with control. If they cannot make you love them or understand them, they will make you fear them. They operate in a perpetual state of fight or flight, even during a casual dinner conversation. The third pillar is the erosion of consequences. This is the modern twist. In the past, the community would punish antisocial behavior. If you burned bridges, you were isolated. Today, with the internet and high mobility, responsibility is optional. The toxic individual simply changes their environment. They block, they unfollow, they change jobs, they switch social circles. They never have to evolve because they can always find a new audience for their performance. The system rewards the noise of their ego rather than the substance of their character. How do you identify someone operating on this primitive software before they drag you down? You look for the symptoms of emotional illiteracy. First, watch for the aggressive victim. This is the person who uses their past trauma or current hardship not as a bridge for empathy, but as a shield against accountability. If you criticize their behavior, they immediately pivot to how much they are suffering. It is a defensive maneuver designed to silence you. Second, observe a deficit of auto-regulation. Healthy adults can self-soothe. Toxic individuals outsource their emotional stability to those around them. If they are anxious, you must be anxious. If they are angry, the whole room must walk on eggshells. They are emotional contagions. Third, the incapacity for reflection. Listen to their stories. In the narrative of their life, are they ever the villain? Or are they always the hero or the martyr? If a person cannot admit to a mistake without adding a but, followed by an excuse, you are dealing with a fragile ego. The mirror is their greatest enemy. The betrayal often isn't loud. It is quiet, strategic, and corrosive. The tactics used by the emotionally illiterate are mechanisms of defense disguised as communication. Consider the substitution of vulnerability for manipulation. A healthy person says, "I feel insecure about this." A toxic person says, "You are arrogant and you think you are better than everyone." They project their weakness onto you. Then there is the weaponization of silence. This is not the silence of peace. It is the silence of punishment. Known as the silent treatment, it is a tactic used to provoke a reaction. They withdraw affection to force you into submission, to make you chase them, to make you apologize for crimes you didn't commit. And finally, gaslighting, the rewriting of reality. This term is overused, but the mechanism is real. They will deny saying things you heard them say. They will accuse you of being too sensitive when you react to their disrespect. They attempt to erode your trust in your own perception, because if you doubt your reality, you are easier to control. It is a desperate attempt to align the external world with their internal delusion. So, how do you handle this? The strategy requires you to override your natural instincts. Your instinct is to explain, to defend, to fix the misunderstanding. Stop. Do not feed the beast. Understand that their toxicity requires a fuel source, and that fuel is your emotional reaction. If you get angry, they win because they controlled you. If you get sad, they win because they hurt you. Adopt the gray rock method. Become as uninteresting and unreactive as a gray rock. When they attempt to provoke you with chaos, respond with facts. Not with emotion, just facts. They say, "You never support me." You say, "I helped you with the project on Tuesday and Thursday. I cannot help today." End of sentence. No justification. Maintain emotional autonomy. You must separate your internal state from their external storm. Just because they are in a crisis doesn't mean you need to be. Their urgency is not your emergency. The immediate defense is about survival. The long-term strategy is about immunity. To make yourself impervious to these dynamics, you must build a fortress of self-knowledge. Clarity is your kryptonite against them. Toxic people thrive in confusion. They rely on the fog of war. When you develop high self-awareness and emotional independence, you become dangerous to them. You see their behavior not as an intimidating display of power, but as a childish tantrum. When you look at a grown adult screaming or manipulating, and you see it for what it truly is, a maladaptive toddler response, you don't feel fear. You feel a distant pity. And in that shift of perspective, they lose all power over you. Establish non-negotiable boundaries. This is not about telling them what to do. It's about telling yourself what you will accept. It is the quiet power of the no. The price of your peace is the willingness to walk away from anyone who cannot afford the cost of your sanity. We must address the philosophical reality of our time. As the Stoic Emperor Marcus Aurelius wrote in his Meditations nearly 2,000 years ago, when you wake up in the morning, tell yourself, the people I deal with today will be meddling, ungrateful, arrogant, dishonest, jealous, and surly. He knew then what we forget now. Expect dysfunction. The mistake we make is thinking that our kindness can cure their blindness. It cannot. Kindness without wisdom is self-destruction. In a world that rewards narcissism and monetizes outrage, retaining your character is an act of rebellion. The price of success and the price of peace often involves leaving people behind. Not because you hate them, but because they are committed to a path of destruction that you cannot follow. You must be wise enough to know that not everyone deserves access to your energy. To summarize, modern toxicity is a mechanism of adaptation for the fragile. It is the roar of an ego trying to hide its own cracks. Don't take it personally. Don't try to fix it. And certainly, don't let it infect you. Your clarity is your shield. Your wisdom is your weapon. They thrive in the chaos. You will win in the calm. Now, I have a task for you. If you have ever had to be the adult in the room while someone else was having an ego collapse, I want to hear your story in the comments. Let's decode these dynamics together. If you want to master social dynamics rather than be mastered by them, like this video and subscribe. Turn on notifications, because the world isn't getting any simpler, and you need to be prepared. They use chaos as a shield. You will use the truth as a sword. Until next time.